He laughed and said I was crazy, but every time we fought, my toothbrush was wet. I think he was using it for revenge. We met in the most casual way, waiting in line at a grocery store. He made a stupid joke about the tabloids and I laughed. I was 22 in college and working nights. Evan was 28, stable, charismatic, with the kind of smirk that made you feel like you were in on something. I didn't know that smirk would one day haunt me. He swept me off my feet fast. First it was weekend dates, then sleepovers. Before I knew it, I was spending nearly every night at his place. He said I made him feel grounded. I thought that was romantic. I didn't notice the little red flags at first, like how he got weirdly quiet whenever I mentioned going out with friends, or how he'd sigh heavily when I said I was tired from class, like I'd inconvenienced him. Eventually, I dropped 2 courses and moved my shifts around so I'd be home more. I called it compromise. He called it us making time for each other. Then came the toothbrush. At first, it was just moved slightly, off of the charger, on its side. I thought maybe I'd bumped it, or maybe Evan had knocked it while getting ready. But one day I came home early and it was dripping wet. I hadn't used it all day. My stomach dropped. Still, I told myself it was just coincidence, that I was imagining things, that maybe it really was condensation. But it kept happening. And then one day there was this grime on it, a kind of gray residue, gritty, like it had been scraped along dirty tile. I didn't even know what to think. I just stood there holding it, trembling. That night, I didn't sleep. I bought a manual toothbrush the next morning and hid it in the back of my makeup bag. I never mentioned it. I just started using that one secretly. I started watching, testing, taking notes, and sure enough, every time we fought or even just had tension, my electric toothbrush would be wet again, or moved, or just wrong. I finally confronted him. We were sitting on the couch and I just asked, flat out, "Are you doing something to my toothbrush when you're upset with me?" He looked up, blinked once, then smiled. "You're insane," he said. He laughed like it was a joke, like I had just asked him if aliens stole my shampoo. That laugh chilled me, because there was no denial, no concern, just amusement, like my discomfort was funny. That was when everything else came flooding back. How he'd once left my plate of food on the counter for hours after a fight. How he convinced me to quit my job because it wasn't worth the stress. How he said school was draining my energy, then started tracking my calendar to see when I had midterms. He had slowly, surgically carved out my independence. And now he was messing with something as intimate, as personal, as my toothbrush. What else was he capable of? That night I cried in the shower. Not because of what he'd done, but because I finally believed myself. For months I had gaslit myself into thinking I was overreacting. But my gut had been right the whole time. He wasn't a boyfriend, he was a manipulator, a man who found joy in subtle domination. And I was a shell of who I'd been before I met him. I didn't know how to leave. I had no savings, no car, no family nearby. But I had one friend I hadn't spoken to in over a year, Layla. I'd cut her off after Evan said she was bad for my mindset. I messaged her, heart pounding, and she replied, "Get out, I'll come get you, whenever, wherever." That message felt like air in my lungs for the first time in months. We made a plan. Evan dropped his daughter off with her mom every Saturday at 2 p.m. That would be my window. For the next 5 days, I quietly gathered everything I could. I deleted texts, cleared my browser history, packed small bags and hid them under the bed. I made sure he didn't suspect anything. Every night I rehearsed what I'd do, what I'd say if he came home early, where I'd run if he tried to stop me. When Saturday came, I told him I had a headache and was going to take a nap. He left without question. The second the door clicked shut, I launched into action. I grabbed my bags, my charger, my documents. I didn't stop to look around. I didn't say goodbye. Layla was waiting at a gas station 5 minutes away. I nearly collapsed when I saw her car. When I sat in her passenger seat, she reached over and squeezed my hand. We didn't speak until we were on the freeway. I stared out the window, tears streaming down my face. But I wasn't sad, I was relieved. We got to her apartment, and she showed me the couch, a drawer in the bathroom, and told me to sleep as long as I needed. When I went to unpack my toothbrush into her cabinet and saw it resting on the counter, safe, untouched, mine, I cried harder than I had in years because I was safe. I was free, and I hadn't even realized how much I'd been suffocating until the air came rushing back. Of course, it didn't end there. He started texting that night, then calling, then leaving voicemails. "You're blowing this out of proportion. I never touched your stuff. I miss you. Come home." Then came the guilt texts. His daughter's mom reached out, said she was heartbroken, that the little girl had been asking about me, that I'd abandoned someone who looked up to me. That part hurt, because I had loved that kid, and she didn't deserve any of this. But I had to remind myself, he was the reason I left, not her. I ignored every message. I blocked his number. I deleted every photo. I shut it all down. I started working at a local bar, got a new phone. Layla helped me file paperwork to change my address and transfer school credits back to a university in my home state. Little by little, I rebuilt. I started painting again. I went on walks. I read novels. I stared in the mirror and tried to find pieces of the woman I used to be. And slowly, she came back. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Months passed. I still sometimes flinched when the phone rang. I still had nightmares, but they got less frequent, less sharp. And one night, I looked at my toothbrush sitting where I left it, untouched by anyone but me, and I smiled. Because it wasn't just about the toothbrush. It was about every moment of doubt I'd endured, every small betrayal I let slide, every time I swallowed my fear because I loved someone who didn't love me back in the right way. The toothbrush was just the last straw, the final red flag I couldn't ignore, and I'm so thankful I didn't. I don't know what he was doing with it. I never got the truth, but honestly, I don't need it because I listened to myself. I saved myself. So when people ask if I overreacted, if I could have handled it better, if maybe it was all in my head, I smile and I say, even if it was, I'm better now. But deep down, I know the truth. My toothbrush told me, and I believed it.